folks. I just called into the Jay Sekulow live show. It's one of my favorite shows to watch. Comes on at noon Eastern time. It's streamed live on Periscope, and I call in quite frequently. Uh, it brought something really important to my attention that I think we've all overlooked. Every piece of evidence used in the FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page, which gave uh, the FBI and the intelligence community gave him a two-hop rule, so they could spy on Carter Page, anyone he emailed, talked to, texted, and then anyone that any of those people talked to and texted. So it goes from Carter Page to tens of thousands of people in two jumps. It's pretty amazing. Uh, every piece of evidence used to grant the FISA warrant to spy on an American citizen so far has been proven completely false. We know that Carter Page was uh, the initial push of information towards Carter Page about Russians came from a CIA asset. Same with George Papadopoulos. George Papadopoulos' involvement included his interactions with a guy named Joseph Mifsud. Mifsud is a Western intelligence asset. He works for British and American intel. Mysteriously, he's nowhere to be found right now. He's gone underground because he's the linchpin in this whole thing. They don't want him to be deposed because if he tells the truth, it's gonna unravel the entire corruption probe. And Stefan Halper, CIA asset paid by the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, was the one sending emails to Carter Page about meeting with Russians on dirt and all this other stuff, and just a big it's all the evidence has been proven false, including most importantly the dossier. Now, I think the biggest thing to look at here, and I'm going to make this quick, in order to pull a FISA warrant on an American citizen, it is the most egregious removal of your civil rights and your privacy rights. In a lot of ways, it usurps the constitutional amendment that protects your privacy. So the amount of evidence that needs to be overwhelming in order to grant the warrant. Now we know that Judge Contreras, he recused himself from the Flynn trial because of his being friends with Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok, has been fired. This guy's a liar. He's the one that crafted a lot of this garbage. And here's the thing. Let's say all the evidence was true. Now, all of it. Let's say George Papadopoulos talked to Russians. Let's say Carter Page talked to Russians. Let's say the Trump administration met at the Trump Tower with Russians to get dirt on Hillary. Does everybody out there understand that none of those things are against the law? And even if they're true and not against the law, none of those things should have warranted a FISA warrant under any circumstances. Just not only for the political ramifications of taking on a political opponent, but even if the evidence was true, I don't think it even comes close to meeting the requirements for a FISA warrant on an American citizen. Now we find out they're all false. So in addition to people going to jail and the DOJ and FBI's upper management getting completely routed, I think from this we are going to see a complete redesign in the entire FISA process, because what it's shown us is that bad evidence can get a FISA warrant, but even if that bad evidence was true, no laws were broken. And it's really scary to think that you can have your constitutional rights taken away on a whim for talking to a Russian person. I actually came into, here's what got me thinking about it. I was in contact with a Russian person about 5 minutes ago. About 5 minutes ago, I delivered something to somebody. Guy was Russian. He was, I think he was Ukrainian. He was speaking dialect with somebody on the phone, and it's obvious he's a Russian. So the fact that I have an interaction with this person, a does that make me, a bad person? No, not at all. So even if Carter Page and George Papadopoulos did talk to Russians, and even if Don Jr. sat in Trump Tower and talked to Veselnitskaya, a Russian attorney, who, by the way, had her passport into America sped up by the Loretta Lynch group in the DOJ and the State Department. They sped up her credentials so she could get in the states to have this meeting, which is further evidence of corruption. But something to think about.